Hello, ladies and gents, and today we're going to be talking about the newest Supergirl episode, Season 1, Episode 12, which aired last night, and it's entitled Bizarro, and this episode is just, it's kind of a run-of-the-mill episode. There's nothing great about it, but there's also nothing embarrassingly bad about it either. It kind of does move some of the subplots along, and it kind of awkwardly puts Supergirl and Blake Jenner, who are, two of them are married in real life. Not Supergirl, Melissa Benoist, and Blake Jenner are married in real life. It's one of these stunt castings where they put two people together that they know, that the audience knows, that these people know each other in real life. And just like every other show that does it, it kind of awkwardly goes along. The big piece of this episode is Maxwell Lord has turned full-on supervillain. He's actually turned on full-on supervillain in the train episode when he was willing to kill a bunch of people to see what Supergirl would do. But I feel the show hasn't exactly really given a good enough reason why Maxwell Lord wants to kill Supergirl, other than the fact that he's a poor man's Lex Luthor for the show. But he creates this Bizarro girl, which the show has sort of been setting up week by week in little subtle ways. I mean, the most obvious was Hank finding out about the Phoenix Project. And he's created a perfect clone of Supergirl, who is then going to go and destroy Supergirl. But just like John Byrne's Man of Steel run with Bizarro, this Bizarro starts to get conflicted about their orders and why they would be killing Supergirl. Kind of like I was in this episode, not entirely knowing why Maxwell Lord wanted to kill Supergirl. But using blue kryptonite, the DEO is able to take Bizarro down, and Kara entraps Maxwell Lord, who is now in prison in the DEO, and he now knows that Kara is Supergirl and that, Kara is Alex's sister, and I don't really know what they're going to do with him. Well, actually, I do know. I mean, as the episode ended, it pretty much set up for what next week's episode is going to be, which is the infamous Alan Moore story with Superman. I forget what it's called, but I think it's For the Man Who Has Everything. So it looks like they're going to be doing that story, and I have a feeling that they are going to make Max try and help get this huge insect that is killing Kara off of her. And so he's either going to get in their good graces and they're going to let it go, or maybe he's going to be a part of the DEO. I have no idea. But I have a feeling that's how they're going to get Max out of this situation where he's trapped in the DEO. Not to mention that I'm sure the government is going to come hard once they find out that they're holding a private citizen. The other subplots in this episode involve, like I said, the date with Kara and Adam, who is Kat's son. I'm really, really disappointed that the show, took two steps back when it came back from winter hiatus, and they did the whole thing where Kat doesn't know anymore that Kara is Supergirl. I'd like to believe that she actually deeply did know that the whole thing was a ruse, because it makes Kat look like the stupidest person in the world, that she has Kara and Supergirl standing right next to each other and she can't tell the difference. But I think this would have really strengthened the episode with Kat knowing that Supergirl is Kara and that she's going out on a date with her son, and with Bizarro out there that she may be putting her son in danger. I think there's a lot of things that they could have played with that. Unfortunately, it doesn't really do that well. But Kat is also becoming one of my favorite characters of the show. Really, really glad with the casting of her and what they've done with her over the course of 12 episodes. The first episode, she looked like she was just going to be a one-note character, and she really has not been that at all. I would actually say, beside Melissa Benoist, I think that she is the heart of the show. But this Adam subplot also goes into dealing with Winn and his problems, as we saw in the Fantastic Toyman episode, where he kissed Kara, came out with his feelings, only to realize that she did not have those feelings in return, and the two of them have been pretty awkward ever since. Now, the show has done a pretty good job of making this feel believable, that they don't just get back, they're not just best friends again at the end of the episode or at the end of the next two episodes. And I'm hoping that this kind of continues throughout the rest of the season. I think by the end of season 1 that they will be back to being best friends. But I mean, Winn has been carrying a torch for this girl for so many years. And I think that it's being realistically done that the two of them are just not going to get over this in a couple of days. So that's good. But also, this also led to a really great moment with James, in which Winn, tells him that he basically has to shit or get off the pot. He either needs to commit himself with Lucy, or he needs to break up with Lucy and get together with Kara. And I have a feel. I've been very iffy on James, because to me he comes off very much like the female characters in the other Kurtzman and Berlanti shows of Arrow and The Flash. He comes off like Laurel in Arrow and Iris in The Flash, in that he doesn't really seem to have much of a plot, and he was just there to be a love interest. Now, I mean, side note, Laurel has become a more important character than just the love interest in the last couple seasons, but it was really obvious in that first season that's all she was there for. And Iris has really just been a love interest. She hasn't really had anything else to do. And I feel like that's James. James doesn't really do anything on this show other than get into awkward conversations with Kara in which they may or may not get together. And I think that's the biggest problem I have with James and Winn as characters. Now, Winn has become more interesting with the storyline with his father, but James doesn't. And I feel like they may have realized that just keep on trying to connect James with Superman got old, and so now I think they're going to finally pull the trigger on James and Kara, because honestly, he just doesn't have anything else to really do in this show. And that's about it. It was a decent episode. I mean, I think it was probably the best you could hope for with a Bizarro storyline. I'm sorry, I'm not really a huge Bizarro fan, and they couldn't do crazy, insane Bizarro like they do in the comics. I mean, they made some attempts. This was probably better than the Bizarro in Smallville, although he then came back and had a really cool storyline where he actually was impersonating Clark, and Clark was trapped as him, because the Bizarro in Smallville didn't talk the way Bizarro talks in the comics, or this version of Supergirl talked in the comics. But again, it's just a imposter storyline, and I think this was the best they could hope for. I'm looking forward to next week, which will be the For the Man Who Has Everything storyline, and I want to see what they can do with that. And I look forward to, I don't know, the stories kind of developing a little more. The Krypton storyline seems to have disappeared. It was in 8 and 9, and so far it hasn't come back. Kind of hoping it doesn't come back. I mean, I know it's going to have to come back, but I feel like Supergirl does much better when it's not focused on that kind of storyline. But anyway, I'd give this episode probably a B-. It wasn't anything really special, but I think it did the best with the material that they knew they had to work with in this episode. So that's it for me, guys. I'll see you guys next week to talk about For the Girl Who Has Everything.